And just like that, we're live here at Cache Canada Chats. And once again, we have our guest with us, the infamous, one and only CacheShadow.
Hello, good evening.
How are you today?
Not too bad at all. Another day in
Excellent,
paradise.
excellent. We were supposed to be on last night, on the 8th of February, but somebody planned a last minute geocaching kind of ish trip to Los Angeles. And I must say, it was wonderful. I loved it. So, yeah, I'm a crazy kind of traveler. I planned a trip and I went to LA on Tuesday morning, and I came back late Wednesday night and actually drove into the driveway early Thursday morning. It was fabulous.
Those quick dashes are fun sometimes. I've got to get in, get it done, get back.
Yes, it was
That's how
great.
goal caching works for a lot of people.
So I took our video cameras with us, and I did some video, and I'll put that together. But that you won't be seeing that until sometime probably late March, early April, or mid-April. I don't know. Our schedule is full of videos coming up. So, and this is one where I tried to do this on Wednesday instead of a 1 minute Wednesday because I'm trying to get back on track of having us do 2 videos per week. So, anyway, cool. We have a bunch of people in the room already waiting for some questions. And if anybody has a question, just please fire it off. And I'm going to start with one that I prepared ahead of time. So, shall we just dive right in?
Absolutely. So same ground rules as always. It's, we never ask questions about specific caches or people per se because we're not reviewing. But, bring it on and keep the positivity flowing, folks.
All right. And the purpose of the questions is first to try to learn something about geocaching and, of course, to have fun with it. And we try to keep
Absolutely.
it
Because,
geocaching related.
yeah,
So
and we'll try and keep the answers semi-relevant or factual.
there you go. And you might get something that actually makes sense. So have fun. Here we go. This is a question I pulled out of all these questions I pulled out of the ground rules or the what are they called, guidelines. So a greater variety of geocaches found creates a better understanding how to create an enjoyable experience for others. Does HQ recommend finding a minimum number of geocaches before you hide that one? Before you hide your
Absolutely.
first one?
Absolutely. And I believe the page has the text at least 20.
Yes,
But it
that is
doesn't mean to
correct.
say that at your 20th, you are set good to go and you know everything there is to know for your hide. People should encourage to take their time because there are people who place their first cache and it checks all the boxes. It's truly fantastic. It's great. They have a good experience. Maybe their cache after that wasn't as great because they haven't got enough experience finding. So it's always a good idea to get your feet wet and get an array of experiences. And 20 in some cases is a pretty low number. It all depends on, I guess, the ones you experience. But it certainly is. And the more you play, the better you'll probably be able to play.
Excellent. And it does mention an actual number of 20. My opinion is 100, but 20 would be good. But it does say a variety of cache types, not just a traditional, like
Yeah,
one type.
you can imagine someone going along with a friend of theirs doing a power trail and going, I've done 150 caches today and somewhere in the States. I know what this caching's about. Let me find myself a bunch of light stands.
Yeah, yeah. All film canisters. If people know what those are nowadays, I don't know. They're getting kind of harder to find. I guess you have to go on Kijiji or something like that. Not that we're mentioning Kijiji or setting, an agenda to buy film canisters or from Kijiji.
Yeah,
And that's another geocaching thing. Agendas, right? Well, how does that
absolutely.
apply? How does agendas apply to geocaching?
The wording in the guidelines, over the years, people have got a little foggy on the difference between something that's commercial, something that's promotional, the word agenda, which is trying to influence somebody with something. So a good approach is a cache page is intended to tell people about the experience they're going on, or maybe some information about why a cache was hidden. It's not a platform to refer to a cause. to
Mm-hmm.
educate you to change your feelings or your actions on something. So you ever seen those things at bus stops? They say, you just proved bench advertising works.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to drum up some business of when something is in front of you, maybe you're going to react to it. So if you were to say, for example, um, I have put this cache here to honor those folks who give dogs haircuts because it's so difficult, and please support your local grooming association.
Yep.
That's raising awareness. That's an agenda. It's saying, please go and do something other than find this cache.
Mm-hmm.
And similar to as if you say, your cache page, um, I like to use a Garmin GPS because it's the best. Well, that's a recommendation. That's again, it's a promotion. So
Yep.
cache pages, we should try and avoid that. So agendas is like the overall category that we often refer to all of this. You shouldn't be trying to convince people to like something, do something, buy something, experience something other than the cache itself, or maybe the landscape or a viewpoint. There are some fine lines in there. If you turn around and say, for example, this cache is to celebrate Valentine's Day, well, okay, no one's probably going to turn around and argue with that. But we're going to say this cache is to celebrate Save the Squirrels Day because the
Mm-hmm.
squirrels are under our feet and we don't appreciate them, and donate your local squirrel bank. That's a problem.
Yeah, and I've run afoul of this with some events that I've put out, or a cache or two. And is this quite often with new geocachers? Do you see this a lot with somebody posting their first event or geocache?
I think often people write their cache pages in sort of a fluid brain to fingertip. So it happens to everybody. And to be honest, I've even gone back through my own cache pages I've written for events and thought, oh, I better change that, because how I've worded it, I've gone cross the line of being factual and I've moved into perhaps saying how good something is too much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily just a new player phenomenon. And it's in our day to day conversations, we might say, oh, this is a really good thing, and
Yeah,
explain it. We've got to be careful to dial that back when we create the cache page. So it's
yeah,
just natural in our language to do that.
without recommending that somebody, hey, try this or do this or
Yep.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, this place has got the best burgers. Ugh.
Kantai Child says, "Do we have to ask a question?"
Mission
No.
accomplished.
There you go. He did though. Okay. From Mrs. Wewer, what's changed the most since you started geocaching? So I'll put that to you first, and then I guess I can answer that too because
That's
I've been at
interesting.
it a while.
The technology is one thing that's changed, because everybody was using a handheld, dedicated GPS device when I first
Mm-hmm.
started, but that's probably less of a guess day-to-day impact. The website's changed
Mm-hmm.
a lot, but I think there's people want numbers now, in my opinion, sometimes more than they used to. It used to be a lot more puzzle solving for the joy of puzzle solving, and there were complex puzzles. People still do enjoy puzzles, don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but there used to be teams that would often get together in groups and come up with solves. And now, with the advent of social media and other platforms, uh, we find that I find, sorry, there's it's fewer folks who want to put that time and effort into that solve, because that's 12 hours they could have gone and got 15 other cache types. So it's just the way the game has changed a little bit over
Mm-hmm.
time, uh, because now we have more tools in front of us. We've got Project GC, we've got challenge caches that make numbers very prevalent. And
Yeah.
I remember the joy of the hunt. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a natural progression of the game that has changed overall. But nowadays, we usually seem to be staring at our phones to do a lot of it, not always. Whereas it used to be a lot more effort to get the caches into your GPS.
Hmm. Nice. Yeah, I started geocaching in 2012, so it's been 11 years now. And the only, I have to say, how it's how I look at it is almost the same. Like the website hasn't, it's changed. Um, your geocaching website and the look of the app. The app changed a lot because I used the app originally first, and then they came out with the new app, which I thought was worse than what was already there. So I stopped using it and started using CGO. But I have since gone back to using the geocaching app because it is vastly improved. I really, really enjoy it. The only thing I like better with CGO is you can get closer within zooming into the map. And it does, and I know it's not just me, but it annoys me that the geocaching app doesn't have a scale. Really, I should really write that up. So I'll send that
Absolutely.
to geocaching and say, hey, can we get a scale? Okay, here's a question from Roy. Sorry, from Doug. Hi, Roy. Wondering how your mobility is these days.
So this is referring to those who would not know. I injured my left foot rather severely back in July at a geocaching event, ironically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was off of it and cast it up, and well, we went on a Caribbean, sorry, an Alaskan cruise with a knee scooter,
Yep.
and I guess I'm now back on my feet, so to speak. So
Excellent.
it's never be fully healed. I have lack of working ligaments in my left foot, which it makes walking on non-flat surfaces very challenging.
Oh, so
But
you're like me.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not pretty. But doing well, and thank you for checking. But I've had great support from a lot of folks,
Hmm.
and yeah, that would definitely throw a spanner in the works, as we say.
Very, very nice. Yeah, it was a bit of a challenge. I should have, when I was in LA yesterday and the day before, I should have done the scooter thing, and I never did. I wish I had now. Started right at first. It would have saved my wear and tear on my knees considerably. I was in
Oh,
quite a bit of pain, hobbling. I walked the entire time, and I have to figure out. I wish I had a counter on to find out how much I walked, but
I
it was
I
good
missed my
exercise.
I missed my knee scooter. Not only was it trackable, which
Yeah.
anybody who was at G Woodstock would have seen, but it is so much easier. You can zoom around Costco, and when you have one of those devices, people get out of your
Hmm.
way.
Yeah. Nice.
So it was very good on cruise ships too.
So Catherine Wood says, great question, K Amy 2207, and here's her question. I have a question. Can lab cache be adopted or put up for adoption? I adopted a lot of cache from another cacher who sadly passed away, and one of the mysteries I adopted is related to a lab cache.
As far as I'm aware, lab caches stay with the account which they were assigned. They're not the same, say, back end of the rest of the geocaching site.
Mm-hmm.
So trackables and cache pages, anything with a GC code, you can adopt.
Yeah.
But labs at this point, I I do not know of a process by which that can be done.
I
If
don't
it,
think so. In Ontario, we have somebody that will work. If you can't adopt the lab to them, but this person will create a lab for you. So you basically turn over the uh, logging page, I guess. I don't know how he does it, but that person will create one for you. Yeah, because you cannot adopt a lab cache. So there you go. Boom, boom, boom. We often talk about having a little local event to put our heads together to solve some harder puzzles in the area, but weren't sure how popular that would be. Andrea Meeks. There is a lot of groups. I see a lot of people post events like that, puzzle caching. I know um, uh, in Kitchener there's one. They get together to do puzzle solving. There's some in
we
Toronto.
used to have a lot more, but it wasn't more of a case of specific events for the solving. This is going back to 2007, 2008 timeframe. It
Hmm.
was at events, there would be a bunch of people with ring binders and calculators and set squares and pieces of paper and whatever, actually solving things collectively. I
Yep.
think they're it's one of those things, build it and they will come.
Hmm.
But so
Nice.
you see fewer people building it nowadays, and any reason to get together other caches is a good thing in my mind.
Hmm. Okay, this one comes from Janet Yu, and thank you for Andrea for that question. Uh, why, when I had only one DNA, I think it would be DNF on
DNF.
my DNF on my cache, CacheShadow disabled my cache when there was But this is a specific cache, but I think you can answer it.
Yeah, this is a
When
good
there
one
are other
actually.
caches that have found that have 6 or more DNFs.
Yeah. So every cache has a health score. And a health score is something that HQ have on the back end. It's some algorithm, it's magic and stardust and math. We don't know how they come up with this algorithm, but it's pretty good. It looks at cache pages, it looks at logs, it looks at DNFs, it looks at all variables of the cache page. That's all we do know. And if HQ deems that there's been some issues with the cache and there's been no sign of activity from the cache owner on that cache, they'll send an email, a health score email to the cache owner, essentially encouraging them to do something. Now, that something might need to be go out and fix the cache. That something might need to be disable the cache with a plan to go and fix it, but also might be a false alarm. The reason there's a false alarm is that HQ's algorithm, its bot, doesn't read the logs or the text. So if someone logs a DNF and it says, I couldn't find it because the water was too deep today, if 10 people log that, the health score might drop. Well, the cache owner will actually see those logs coming in, the DNFs, and might be able to assess the situation. But when they get HQ's note, they can go on and they can post a write note log and say, all is good with the cache, I've checked it. That heartbeat on the cache page, that makes the bot go, oh, okay, much better, and carries on.
Nice.
Well, if there is no heartbeat, then that low health score cache, which again could be a false alarm, goes into queue for a reviewer. So 6 DNFs might not be a magic level. It could have taken 3 over a long period of time. It could have been 10. It all depends on what algorithm HQ are using. But there's no such thing as a perfect algorithm. So it's better to have, let's say, a 90% accuracy rate and give 10% of the people a false alarm, which they can very quickly resolve by going, right, no, everything's fine with my cache. Done, problem solved, move along.
Yep.
Than it is to not action anything. At which point, hundreds of caches, thousands a year, may potentially just be out there taking up space in the game that no one can use.
Yep.
So the review approach is work through the list provided by HQ, action them, and the reviewer note clearly tells the cache owner what they need to do. And it's as simple as cache owner should post a write note log, which is a heartbeat basically, to either say there isn't a problem or there is a problem, I'm going to deal with it. The best one is I've checked my cache, it's fine. I have physically visited it, and
Yep.
that's the only time an owner maintenance log is really needed. Because sometimes people will post an owner maintenance log in response to a reviewer note. If you didn't go and visit your cache, you didn't do owner maintenance. Saying I think it's fine isn't owner maintenance.
Just to clear the score and
Right.
clear the needs maintenance. Yeah.
Because it's just going to happen again very quickly.
Yep.
Right? So a disable note from a reviewer is a gift because it gives the player the second chance to make the best impression with their cache, or it gives the player the opportunity to say, all is good here, let's move on. But you'd rather take 2 minutes to post the note on the cache if you know it's okay,
Yep.
then go, must be fine, I'm sure it's fine.
Yep.
Because no one will know other than the cache owner.
And I'm trying to clear mine. I don't know if I have any that need to be addressed, but there's a few.
See, and for our side, it's not as if I'm not going through going whose caches are on the list. It's more of a case of that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Because if there's an issue, people are going to send an email, post a note. 9 times out of 10, they go, "Yeah, you're right. There's a problem with my cache. I'm not going to maintain it." Archive.
Okay, so here's a question: if you have into your queue, there's 25 geocaches that need attention based on the algorithm. Do you just write a common note and then just go through the whole thing and boom, 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 or do you actually look to see, well, whose is it, or do you care? You're too busy.
It's a big red button and it's a template.
Yeah.
That way, everybody essentially gets the same thing. Now, there
I
might
don't feel
be
special now.
Oh gosh, no, you're not special. So there might be
Well, I knew
situations
that.
where if somebody has emailed the reviewer directly and they've said, this cache has an issue, it should probably be taken care of. And we get some details. And let's say, for example, that there's a scary neighbor, right? It might not be a situation where there's a maintenance problem, but a reviewer might write a personal note, one customized to the situation. I
Okay.
normally use a cache disabled email sent to CO. But if
Mhm.
you're going through something like the sweeps process, which is what we call the disabling of caches with a low health score, you'd much rather everybody get the same message,
Yeah.
because then if you do get a false alarm note, you'd much rather you get the same wording as someone whose cache gets kicked out of the game for being
Mhm.
abandoned, right?
Yep.
So it's a consistent experience, and the onus is on the cache owner to confirm their cache is all up to date and good to go.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Janet, for that question. That was pretty good. And we have one from Glenn. Is can a challenge cache be based on having to have discovered a certain number of TBs and geocoins?
So if you go into the help center and you type in the word challenges or challenge caches, in the page there, it tells you all of the things that challenge cache can do. So challenge cache criteria must be based on logs with found it, attended, webcam photo taken. So that means the trackable logs, waymarking logs, and specifying lab cache finds, specific ones,
Mm-hmm.
aren't allowed. So the answer to the question is no.
Hmm.
So you can check into the help center, just type in challenges, and you'll see the challenge page, and it says it's clearly in there, and you can tell from that's under the source of criteria page.
I thought I've seen
You may have
challenge
seen
ca-
that prior to April of 2015.
Oh, okay. So the update was that after the purge
The
or the?
pre-moratorium. So we had
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
caching
Okay.
moratorium, and then
After that. Okay. So I want to do a challenge cache for, hey, you have 800 souvenirs. Not allowed.
when you look at um, that's technically found two logs, so you need to be able to verify it.
Mm-hmm.
So souvenirs, there are aspects of souvenirs that you could have because that's not based on a log, but it is
Yeah.
something that can be pulled from
From data.
player
Okay.
data,
Yep.
which again, all challenges nowadays require a Project GC challenge checker.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to see that.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Patricia Bell has a question. How long is a listing held after a coordinate check? I'm having trouble coordinating with someone from the landowner management regarding setting up a mystery hide.
There isn't a set duration, but it's not forever. And so my suggestion there would be is post a reviewer note on whatever cache page you have in play, waiting for permission, advising reviewer, this isn't forgotten, I'm still working on it. Kind of like a heartbeat again, because you're sort of refreshing your intention. Reviewer will look at that. This does happen, but thankfully it doesn't happen that often where someone who follows the process entirely, they reach out to a contact at whatever park or conservation area, and that person is away, or that person is really busy, or that person has other priorities, or that person has left. At which point, someone's trying to follow the correct process and they're not getting back that answer. So just keep your cache page up to date with a reviewer note, which is only seen
Mm-hmm.
obviously pre-publish, because that's the primary thing is communicate with your reviewer so they can look at that information. But
Okay.
it does raise a very good point about works in progress as well. So
Mm-hmm.
a coordinate check, there are some complications of coordinate checks. If you go out, hide a cache, love your spot, get the coordinates, go home, create a cache page, submit it for review, and your reviewer says, sorry, cache too close to another one, you feel kind of bad about it and you feel like you've wasted that time and energy. The flip side is reviewers will say, well, why don't you go and get your coordinates first, come back, create a placeholder cache page, essentially a blank one with those coordinates, and submit it for review, and we'll check it. And if it's okay, then you should go and place your cache. It sounds like the same amount of effort, but it's a lot less disappointing when you
Mm-hmm.
haven't placed it in this magical little spot and you're just checking out that spot.
Yep.
But there are times where two people might have the idea to use the same spot. And in those cases, this gets a little more complicated, but I'm going to cover this now because this might help a few people. If two people are vying for the same spot or more, then we look at the date of activity on the cache page that was guidelines compliant. So it's not done by GC code, because people can store all GC codes.
Yep.
So if there is a cache that's in play today and it's going to be archived soon, you can tell because there was a note saying X many days. If you want to use a spot nearby and you create a cache page waiting in the wings, that doesn't automatically mean that you're going to get that spot. 9 times out of 10, actually 99 times out of 100, you might, because if you create your page prior to this one being archived, technically your new one has a proximity issue to the one that hasn't been archived yet. If you create your page moments after it's been archived, there isn't a proximity issue. So there's a little gap in between, of which it could get a little bit fuzzy if there's more than one person. So it's always best to scope out your coordinates, create your placeholder page, give it to the reviewer to check. If they come back and say there's a work in progress cache nearby, they might give you a time frame by which you should try and resubmit again. But there are times where someone's going to pip you to the post. It's regrettable. It happens. But the upside is if somebody else hides a cache and it's in a place that you wanted to use, you can still go out and find it.
Yep. Cool. Okay, this question, well, it's not a question. It was a comment that Andrea made back to Glenn, and we just answered it, basically, the last question before. 75 dog tags of 75 geocoins. Would it be it was published in 2013, but would it be published today? No,
it would not.
Correct. There you go. And then, of course, Charles said something about your scooter, and Mrs. Weaver says your phone has a health app. It tells you your steps. Oh, that's okay. Sorry, that was aimed at me. Yeah, I know. I had one, but I should have turned it on, but I didn't. Sorry for me. Oh, unless it does automatically. I don't know.
Probably in the background, yeah.
In the background, tell me how many steps I did.
Yeah, there's probably a lazy counter in there somewhere for all of us.
Okay, yeah. Somebody has always been a menace. Okay, cool. I'll look at that. Oh, wait. Okay, she said, Janet said it was disabled, but the cache was there. It was new caches who couldn't find it. I went to look the next day. Thanks.
Perfect. Log an owner maintenance log, enable the cache, good to go. See, there's nobody else can do that.
Yeah. Okay, so here, this is from Tim, way over in Michigan, who's now at Tim Merlin 1392, is now a host for Geocache Talk. He took over for our friend Jeff when he left the show. So here we go. Can a challenge be created? Oh, and he's the host for Challenge Caches. Can a challenge be created based on the number of hides or types for a cacher?
The guidelines don't permit anything that encourages someone to hide a cache. So whether that be hiding a cache container with other caches inside it and the cache page saying, you can grab a container from this cache and go and hide it yourself. So anything at all, including the challenge that encourages hiding a cache, that's an agenda. So
so no. Cool. Okay. There you go, Tim. And hi, Tim. How are you? By the way, good friend of ours. This one comes from Tim up in Timmins. Is there a way to find cache pages for caches that may still be there, but have been archived? I think there is. There are people that know how to do this, and I don't know if you're going to let us know. I'd like to remove and reuse the container when able.
You know how many times this has been suggested as a tool?
Yep.
So there's two trains of thought. And I think the way of thinking has changed recently, so who knows what's going to happen. Years gone by, caches were considered to be, because they are, the property of an individual. So if I take an ammo can and I go hide it in the woods, I might list that in geocaching.com, but that's still my ammo can. And it doesn't mean I haven't listed it on some other fluffy outdoor geocaching.ca website or something. It's mine. So if I choose to archive my cache page in geocaching.com, which is a listing service, does that stop that ammo can from being mine? And I think that's one of the questions that in the past had come up that said, this is someone's property, it's theirs. Let's not complicate our life and get involved in it. Over time, I think that's just changed. There's more geolitter, there's more litter in general in the world, and why wouldn't we want to clean up? So there was a terms of use update, I think it was a couple of years ago, that if you look in your terms of use, the thing that pops up and it says, scroll, 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 do you agree to everything? And you go, yes. The wording in there, I believe now includes a caveat that's saying is if geocaching.com believe you have abandoned your cache, you give permission for it to be retrieved. Go look at the wording, what the exact wording is, which sounds a lot like what Tim's suggesting is a little more appreciated than it used to be, but there still doesn't answer the question of how does one go out and actually get these? Well, people have GSAC and they have all the caches in it. You can kind of ask a friend, and that really would cover traditionals. There isn't an official tool that you can go in and find out where these are. You can, if you know the GC code, just go in and type in the GC code and see an archive cache, right? So if you can get that list, people can do things with it. But it does sound like an opportunity for some expansion, but even at some organizational level, doesn't it? Because why not? Because not only just removing things, but reusing things. I'm sure there are a whole bunch of containers abandoned in Ontario parks from people who hid them there, not realizing that Ontario parks would never give permission. And on one side, it kind of proves they're never going to go back to maintain it. The other side is there's some pretty good 20 years worth of pristine ammo cans probably shoved in a few holes and some rocks all over the place.
Dougie B mentions that you can use Project GC to find archived cache listings. No guarantee that the container will still be there, as the CO could have retrieved the container.
Yeah, and if you do a search, I've got in my GSAC, I've got pretty much all of Ontario's logs. I've actually looked before for retrieve the container. There's not that many people actually put that in their logs if they do. So, but it's an interesting experience. If you want to go for a really good hike, and someone has said to you, GCABC 123, which is archived in 2005, used to be there. Well, you know what? Maybe pick up some caches on the way.
Yeah, I know somebody that, like you mentioned, I think is in their listings of caches that they've loaded. They have all kinds of caches in them, but they can see, oh, that one's archived. So this person, I don't know if they still do, or they would make it a game to go and see, hey, I know there's a geocache used to be here. I want to go see if it's still there. So they would go and, oh, there's the container, still there. So they make it a game to find archived geocaches.
Yeah. Now and again, people stumble across them, right? And they put pictures on social media. I found this container. The label's gone, but it's got the word, albatross in the name. And somebody goes, oh, I know what that was. Yeah, that's kind of a fun finding those pieces of history.
Yeah, we did a video last summer when we went to Northern Ontario, and I had mentioned it in the video. We were Karen was looking up information for an adventure lab, and we went and we had to go to a cemetery. And I said, I just turned my head and I looked at a spot and I go, that would be a great place for a geocache. And then I looked, and lo and behold, right there was a container sitting ready to be found, and it looked like it had been freshly maintained. Everything was all new, nice, good. It was dry and in great shape. So I wasn't sure if it had been a geocache that was ready to go, or somebody placed it and just forgot about it, or had been archived. And I know somebody and was able to help me to find, that this was an actual archived cache. So I logged it. Although some people are against that. What's your opinion on that? I found a listing. It was intact. It was there, but it was no longer in the game. So I logged it.
If a couple of scenarios. If I find a container wrapped in camo tape, shoved in the tree, chances are it's a geocaching.com geocache nowadays. But in the
Mm-hmm.
past, I know there were other services out there. It might have been part of them. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a geocaching.com geocache, a real
Mm-hmm.
geocache.
Yep.
Also, people do hide things and they submit it for review. And let's say you hide a container and the reviewer says it's too close to something else. You're a good cacher, you're going to go and retrieve it. You might you know what, I'll go back there one day in the future. Maybe you forget. So sometimes containers are hides that were never published. Other times, people indeed do hide things and forget all about it. They create a cache page and it just sits there and they move on. And there are even times where people hide containers with no intention of having them on the website. So those could be, for example, organizations. Lions Club might have a hunt just at an event, which is not on geocaching.com, but they're giving people other ways to find these things. So we can encounter those all the time. But if you do encounter a cache that you believe is a real geocache, it's got a GC code on the label or whatever else,
Mm-hmm.
and you sign that log, some might argue that you weren't first to find because it wasn't published. There is first to find is a competition.
Yep.
There is no competition if nobody else knew about it. It's kind of why we encourage people, if they take a friend when they hide the cache, to write, beta tested by. You
Mm-hmm.
kind of like alpha tested it because they didn't even know you were going to be there. Um, but for a player, the logic of going back to that same place again, they might not see that. But if you take the approach of found the cache, signed the log,
Mm-hmm.
log the find, I don't think many people would argue. Some might. It's up
Some
to the
do.
cacher. It's up to
Yeah.
the cache owner themselves,
Yep.
I would imagine, to validate the logs. And the question is, was your find a valid find? And if you
Mm-hmm.
found a cache, a lot of people might say it was, but I think a lot of people would argue with the premise of it being an FTF,
Yep.
which is an invented metric. It doesn't really exist in the game anyway.
Correct. Okay, wet coaster. So the hider souvenir shouldn't be allowed. Asking for a friend.
Well, technically, CETA was also an agenda,
True.
right? And so a Jeep travel bugs are commercial, Geico commercial. So geocache.com have got a business to run, and they have an entire customer base to keep engaged. So if HQ decide to have a marketing approach where they want to bring people to the site because they having promotion with XYZ company, I'm quite sure XYZ company have crossed their palms with silver. That keeps the site running. Good to go. If HQ want to encourage people to play the game in a certain way, that's wonderful. It's in the confines of their mandate. But as players, if we start trying to affect that, our our role is to fit within the guidelines that we're given. So there will be times where it might appear to be a do as I say, not as I do, but we're not the people trying to run the organization and keep it engaging and bring new players on board and keep folks enjoying what's going on. But yes, a hide a souvenir is encouraging people, but then again, the existence of the website is also encouraging people to hide caches.
Right. Excellent. It's the hiding souvenir is good for those geocaches in our community that love finding all kinds of geocaches, but have never hidden one in themselves. It kind of
Or hosted an
pushes
event.
them. That's true. Yeah. Some we've had some in our community locally that have never hidden a physical geocache, a virtual earth cache, or even held an event and then, well, okay, I'm going to hold an event.
Yep.
So at least they finally did something. So
Absolutely.
not that there's anything against, you don't have to. So Tim says, thanks, saw that the guidelines after catching that note. Year of the Hide.
Exactly, the year of the hide. So again,
Yeah.
it's marketing and keeping the game going. That's different from playing the game.
This one maybe somebody could help with at some point. Any recommendations on how to edit,
Ooh, great
reformat
question.
older cache pages? I think this has been a topic of discussion, and I think you mentioned it once. My older listings lost the background photos and the paragraph breaks. I can't seem to edit them.
Back in the day, We used to
Thanks,
have
Kathy, for that question.
we used to have a lot of extra buttons and things to click on in the website, and over time they've been eliminated because either been back end slowdowns, performance. In some cases, I'm sure there's security risks, and so nowadays there are approved photo hosting links the HQ has. It's in the guidelines that tell you what to do. So it used to be you could find any old JPEG on any website, find the URL, slap it into your HTML code for your web page, and ta-da, it would appear. Nowadays, the way to do it is to add it to the gallery of your page, usually. Open the picture.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Yep, that's the way to do it. Open the picture, get URL at the top, paste it in. So that's the image approach nowadays.
Yep.
But as far as paragraph breaks, you're now into the world of the new kind of code. So the cache editor is the what you see, what you get editor. It's probably the best tool to use. Is instead of using HTML in the old way, just click on the button inside the edit screen, and there's a button that says source, and you can toggle between HTML view, or sorry, code view, and what you see is what you get view. If you use the what you see is what you get view, which is kind of sort of like a Microsoft Word, you'll get some of this functionality back, or you should, but some of the formatting won't work the way that it used to.
Okay.
And even we used to have, remember, a small section in the cache page, short description and long description.
Yep.
That's the other thing that's different now. Is if you go back, if you look at older cache page, if you're a cache owner, even older cache page, you might remember that. If you click edit, you don't have that experience on newer cache pages.
Cool. I hope that helps, Kathy. That's an awesome question.
I like that one.
Yeah. Steve Haynes, is there a good substitute for a 35 millimeter can? A 35 millimeter can was never good anyway. But for birdhouse geocaches, arguably the best of all cache holders.
I've actually seen a preform that was stubby. Wouldn't know where to get them, but it was like, ooh, this is like a much better version of that. I thought I should make a note where I saw that, and I completely forget where it was.
Oh, darn.
But I think the other approach is if you can still get those containers. They're still out there. They're all over Algonquin. But yeah, that's a good question, my friend. Well, I just have to start getting different design birdhouses.
Yep. Thank you, Steve. And Tim comments again, depends on where you live. Michigan State Police have told him that a cache placed on public land becomes public domain, open for anyone to remove, destroy, or play the game.
I will never park my vehicle on public land.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to delve back to one of my preloaded questions. We already did that one. Never mind. Regional guidelines. Does that mean everywhere is different? What are the regions?
I should get a trademark for this. It's a regional game played globally. Is the line I use. Regions are going to get dependent on largely the reviewers that you have and the sphere of influence they have, or the guidelines that they follow, or the approach they follow for reviewing. So I wouldn't say there's a map or set borders for this, but I know that with the Ontario team, we have a wiki page that has items specific to Ontario caches. Other regions, states, provinces have their own. Some don't have any. They don't list any. But the idea of if you place a cache on this side of a border and it's handled this way, and a mile on this side of that border and it's handled another way, just don't be surprised by it, because you have different approaches. Because reviewers don't just get given a red and a green button by HQ and a list of things to follow. They've played the game in their region, and the hides might have been done a certain way. There might be ways that their region plays the game, therefore there's regions that get reviewed in a different way. There might be, actually to point there might be local restrictions or laws and guidelines that apply. So people are surprised to find that things that we do publish in Ontario that might not be published in other regions. We always come back to the whole, typically tree climbs, a lot of those are published in Ontario. maybe not in the city of Hamilton,
Mm-hmm.
but we're fine with that. Whereas other regions, particularly in states where no tree climbs, cemeteries, we ask for permission if there's a specific permission request, but the guidelines have that whole box that says click to confirm you have permission.
Yep.
Well, that includes public spaces and includes cemeteries, which are private spaces technically with
Mm-hmm.
public access. In other regions, they might just kick back everything and say, we want documented permission from the management of that location to be a cemetery.
Yep.
So it is a regional game played globally. And you also might find that, the whole caution, coffee hot. Well,
Yeah.
happened once, now everybody's got it on their cup.
Yep.
So if there has been a particular issue that's arisen in an area, they might need to address it and only address it in that area. So you might be subject to the legacy of a decision that was made. It might have been a law enforcement interaction with HQ. It might have been reviewers talking to a land manager and them saying, well, you know what we're going to do is we'll give you permission to hide things in our parks, but we want it to be 300 meters between each cache. We don't want it to be 161 meters. Are you on side? And the reviewers say, well, you know what? For the good of the game, we might have a different approach and put a larger proximity rule in these areas as per the land manager.
Mm-hmm.
And at which point, it's a regional decision.
Yep. Okay, cool. Tim says 20 ounce preforms, eBay available.
There you go.
And Steve says Lisa tubes. By
These
the
tubes,
gross.
yes.
There you go. Here we go. Regarding challenge caches, have you seen any that you find quite unique?
At this point, a lot of things are kind of rehashes, right? If you see a challenge cache appear in the queue, chances are someone has seen it elsewhere and borrowed it.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that there aren't new ideas, but at this point in time, very few things are surprising me because there's thousands of people in all kinds of places who are essentially sharing their concepts due to the challenge checker requirement on Project GC. Because you just go in and see what someone's requested and go, oh, that's a really good idea. Maybe I'll tweak that. The ones that I think I have enjoyed most are the ones that let people, they're not designed to make you do a crazy amount of things or crazy number of things, but they might encourage you to do something that's normally out of your comfort zone.
Yep.
So as an example, there's a lot of people who think nothing of pulling a canoe or kayak off of their vehicle and going out and going down the river. So if you're in a region where there's all kinds of waterways, your local community might just think that's a whatever challenge cache. But what I find interesting is when people place caches like that and players who said, I have never kayaked in my life until I saw this challenge and I thought, what a way to start. So it might not be a specific challenge, but it's the ones that make people play the game in the way that expands their experience
Yep.
versus one that makes people just go out and just, if you find 20,000 caches, chances are you can just sit down and you've probably qualified for an awful lot of challenges just through osmosis.
Right.
It didn't make you go above and beyond. And those are the ones I find unique.
Okay, here I'm going to post this one. Could a hider be held accountable for anything that happens because of their hide? And would HQ be otherwise?
So what do you think, Dave?
No. Oh, well, yes, you can be held accountable for anything that you do. That is in the guidelines. If something were to happen to someone and they came back on the cache hider, you could be held accountable for any damage or property or person. But HQ cannot. And they specifically state that in the guidelines. It's not them, it's you. Did I get that right?
So, in the terms of use, right, there is a section, and I'm not a lawyer, I don't play one on TV, there's a section that covers claims and liability. And it obviously covers you caching HQ, and it covers the people publishing the caches.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as far as people who are playing, there used to be a pop-up box when you first logged into the app that said, I acknowledge all the risks of me playing this game.
There isn't anymore?
What's in the terms of use?
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the question comes down to is accountability is something that's decided by
Lawyers.
lawyers.
Yep.
So if I say to you, I'm not accountable for any damage that happens to your car when I park it, and I go and drive it into a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you want to accept the fact that I'm not accountable, great, that's fantastic. But I would be worried that you would still turn around and at least give me a scary letter. So that's why I think it's best to err on the side of caution and just play smart.
Cool.
Because even if accountability is defined, or if there's exclusions of liability, do you really want to find out? So that's my personal opinion.
From Stay Gold 678. Hey, how you doing? We've cashed with them before. Are you attending Geo Woodstock? And I guess it could be asked of both of us. Looking on Saturday View and see 0 on-site parking available. That's going to be interesting. And Geo Woodstock, for those that don't know, this year is in Kentucky. I can't remember this city in Kentucky.
If you go to geowoodstock.com, it will tell you.
You'll be able to find it.
At this point in time, my travel plans aren't solid yet. I'm still trying to get through this year's travel plans.
For us, Cache Canada, we had it on our slate to go to Geo Woodstock. Karen really wanted to go somewhere in Kentucky. She was consulting me on it, and I said, I could just add it to our week in Geo Woodstock. We have no work issues anymore that will keep us from going places, except I have surgery now scheduled the Wednesday before. So I could technically attend Geo Woodstock, but I wouldn't be very mobile. So there you go. So Cache Canada will not be attending Geo Woodstock. We had to give that one up. And for any Americans watching, it was an amazing fact in Canadian medical, I was able to choose when I wanted the surgery to occur. They actually wanted to do it next month. And I said, no, I'm traveling somewhere. How about April? No, I'm traveling somewhere. And May, I'm traveling somewhere to Geo Woodstock, but I had to give something up. So we wanted to get it done as soon as we could.
So actually, going back to the previous question, I'll read something to you because I just love the wording. So in the terms of use of our services, inherent risks. The location-based activities facilitated by our services can be dangerous and may take you to difficult to access or potentially treacherous locations. When taking part in these location-based activities, you risk property damage, bodily injury, or death. There are many variables that must be considered, including weather, fitness level, terrain features, and outdoor experience. Be prepared and be sure to check the current conditions before heading outdoors. Always exercise common sense and caution. Presence of certain information within the Groundspeak services, e.g. the location of geocache or adventure, does not imply that accessing such location is safe or legal. Do not enter third parties' property without permission and always obey applicable laws when using our services. Almost done. You assume all risk and responsibilities associated with hiding or seeking a geocache or adventure, and other location-based activities associated with our services. Comply with all applicable laws, including health and safety guidelines. Event cache owners are responsible for ensuring the number of people in attendance is in accordance with any requirements or restrictions for gatherings. Event attendees assume the risk of potential exposure to and illness or death from infectious diseases such as COVID-19. So yeah, they've pretty much got it covered on several bases. But again, just try not to do anything stupid, and you should be okay.
I've had somebody come up and say hello. There's
Hello.
Geodog Blake. How you doing, Blake? Hey, buddy. He wasn't able to go to California with us or with me. Yeah, he stayed
Blake.
home with our live-in geocacher now. There you go.
Blake looks nonplussed being on screen.
Roy asked how you are. Wet Coaster. Oh, sorry, Roy. Gary asked how you were. Are you recovered from your injury you had at Geo Woodstock last summer? I think you answered that earlier.
Pretty cool.
And we just, A&K, a longtime viewer and patron, said we just had someone try taking a shortcut to one of their caches and ended up falling through the ice into a beaver pond. They felt bad, but in their defense, they did waypoint the recommended route.
You see? And again, you can only do what you can do.
Yep. So there, you sound like one of my training videos.
I voiced a few. That's one I put on my professional voice.
There you go. We have a radio voice coming to you today. Or, yeah, okay, I won't do what I was going to do because that is probably not
It's so
family
exciting. We'll sell you the whole seat, but you only need the edge.
Coming up now, next is give it a big hand for. There you go.
There you go. Macho Man Randy Savage impression there. Very good.
Sorry to hear about the issue preventing you from attending. I was glad to see Roy moving around in the chair. Yeah, so maybe I'll get one of those little scooter things.
Oh, they're awesome. Amazon, next day. They come any color you like, as long as it's blue.
Blue's good. Although I could spray paint it red. There you go.
Actually, I've lent mine to somebody, to the third person I've lent it to, who has getting knee surgery right now. But they're probably going to be done with it by the time you need it. So, if you need a scooter, I know how to get you one.
Yeah, Janet says if you walk on the ice, you take a chance of falling through. That's why I rarely walk on ice. I hate it. I will if it's been really, 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 really cold, but I still am very nervous about walking on ice. I have memories as a kid. Point Abino, I don't know if you know where that is. It's near Fort Erie, Crystal Beach. I don't know why. Myself and my two brothers were walking across the bay, and my oldest brother fell through the ice into a hole, and we tried coming to his rescue, and he said, "No, stay back," and he managed to climb out. And I told my mother this just like half a year ago, and she's like, "What?" She had no idea. And I'd have to ask my brother what we were doing out there without our parents. I have no idea.
Yeah, when I was younger and stupider,
Yeah.
I went for a cache with Juicebag, and we got to a point where we'd been hiking for a very long time, and the ice in front of us kind of sort of looked frozen. So we did have the whole, okay, well, let's let people know where we are, just in case conversation. But I think that was the last time that the need to find a cache overruled common sense. It was a very long time ago.
Okay, so common sense isn't always that common.
It is not.
Please go to Cache Canada, and I'll find the link for you, and I'll post it. It's one of our videos where we tried to find a geocache on an island in a little pond, and a geocacher prior to us, Leroux 67 from Michigan, found it, danced across the ice, fell through, right at the edge of the island, but managed to get the cache. I wasn't so lucky. We even videotaped it. I was wearing, and it was probably the stupidest thing I could have done, although it saved me from getting wet, although it could have really pulled me down a lot. I was wearing chest waders.
Oh.
And tried to walk across. I had been to this geocache before in the summer, and if you try to walk across, once you're 2 feet off the shore, you step into the muck and you go down like 3.5 feet and more. It's just, and there's a tangle of logs underneath. So walking to the island is impossible. The only chance is either on a boat, or you swim, or you go on the ice. So I did, and I got halfway across and went through the ice in the video. And it was very close to the chest waders filling up. And then I had lost a branch that I had holding me up, that at least I could be above the ice. It was a scary moment. That's when Karen turned off the video.
Oh.
But we documented the whole thing.
To do things, this is a good time to mention that they should like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell.
Awesome. Perfect. Right. There you go. Cache Line is up with us now. Common sense.
Greetings.
Hello, Jeff. GCAX coming through in February. I don't know what that is. GCA coming up in February. I don't know which event that is. Oh, we're attending a mega in February this month, coming up in not this weekend, next weekend, not this weekend, the following weekend, we're going to be in Gulf Shores, Alabama. We're going to be attending not the Bananarama, but the Bamarama.
Banana. Yes,
Yeah.
that's John's referring to the ice walk event.
Oh, okay. All right. Excellent. There you go. Is it always helpful when caching on ice to cache with someone else? Absolutely.
That's why Juice Pig took me.
Yeah. And I was with a group of people, and they watched in horror when I fell through. Yeah, ice. Okay, there you go. Ice Walk 2023 snow shoedemic. And where is that? Where's
New
that?
Brunswick.
New Brunswick. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. Oh, and then Cash Line says, "Oh, I thought it was 8 p.m." We had discussed it being 8 p.m., but then Roy said, "No, let's make it 7 and drag it along. We can.
Yeah, why not?
Just keep going. We don't have to.
We can talk about
it.
Shediac.
Yeah, we can do anything.
There's a really big lobster in Shediac.
There you go. Are you going?
At this point, no. I have my calendar is somewhat padded out for this year.
Yeah, ours is pretty busy too. Although I have April free, and I'm thinking I always wanted to. I don't want to mention any specific pages on the internet, but ones where you can get last minute vacations. It's like, show me what you got next Wednesday, I'll go. I wanted to do that way before I retired, and so I have Wednesday. April is open, and I've mentioned it. It's like, just go in there. Okay, what do you got? Put me on a beach with some drinks and food. Boom, done. Whatever cheap.
I have 3 cruises in the calendar for the rest of the year, so it's hard to jam anything else in.
3. Wow. Cool.
You can't take it with you.
I got one more, so there you go. Regional guidelines. Yeah, I did that. Okay. Is it okay to place a geocache anywhere?
Do you have permission?
Whatever.
Is it safe?
Put it there. There you go.
But really, is it about the geocache, or is it about bringing people to that location? And I have a reviewer friend who has an excellent phrase, and when he's finding caches, and let's say, for example, he finds a magnetic container on the side of a dumpster, and I believe his log is, "Thank you for bringing me to your special place."
That's funny.
So Brian's Nat has that quote is it more about the cache or about the destination?
One of the early caches that we found was near my mother's apartment. It was behind a shopping mall, and it was on a green electrical box. And we searched and searched and searched, and we couldn't find it because we were starting out, and we thought it had to be in a box or something where you could put something in that would hold things. So we couldn't find it. We went there 3 times, couldn't find it, and I was getting so frustrated. I went on to Google and I typed in where to find a geocache on a green electrical box. And would you know, the second hit, not the first line, but the second one, told me exactly what it was.
That's funny.
A magnetic strip with numbers on it.
Yeah. So I'm going to read the actual quote that I just referred to as there. This is a wonderful line. It's in the guidelines on the very first page. And it says, when you go to hide a geocache, think of the reason you are bringing people to that spot. If the only reason for the geocache, then find a better spot. And that's Brian's Net. And that's, again, it's a thing bearing in mind is, I've got a container, I've got to find a place, Oh, there's a guardrail. Is it a cool guardrail? Is it a great view from that particular guardrail?
Yep.
Is there a better guardrail with a nicer view? No. But maybe it overlooks something. Maybe you go through some really scenic location to get to that guardrail. That might have more value as a cache. And that's the thing for people to always remember is it's the journey.
Wet Coaster says, there's a really nice sculpture at the airport in Vancouver. It should be fine to place an ammo can under it, right?
Oh, they love physical containers placed near airports.
No. Okay, let me see here. What is the maximum distance for the find of a mystery cache to be away from its posted coordinates?
It should be 3.2 kilometers or 2 miles.
2 miles.
1.6093 kilometers to a mile, so 3.2-ish.
Okay. Now, next question. Can 2 points of a multicache be in different cities, hundreds of miles apart? Is there a maximum allowable distance between stages of a multicache?
This is one of those, I'm not sure why it's still this way, but there isn't a distance limitation between stages of the same multi, which can lead to complicated issues, particularly when people want to place a multi where the cache itself is found in country A, but you had to go the coordinates to get there, right? So the souvenir is awarded from the posted coordinates. So if you go to arguably, say, somewhere in Buffalo, and you go to a sign and you read some numbers on the back of the sign, and you use that to find a cache in Ontario, you're going to get a souvenir for the States. So it can get complicated. But yes, there's no max, and that can lead to some complications. And that's another reason why sometimes I'm surprised that there aren't more multis, because people used to do a lot more multis. I think 2007, 2008 timeframe, I think it was, because there was a little bit more flexibility. But yeah, it's so there you go.
Very cool. There you go.
There you go.
All right. Some caches are on busy road where you can't pull off. Why? They weren't paying attention?
Because
they didn't care about you?
That's some folks will place a cache, and in their mind they have an approach in how it would be found, and that's not something that necessarily comes up during review, because you don't visit the cache itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's similar to, there are people who have placed caches near sewage treatment plants, and one might say, why on earth would you bring someone there? Why did you publish something? It smells terrible there. Like, I can't really tell from this end. And people will just vote with their feet, right?
Yep. Yeah, and some geocaches, they base it on the title, stinky stuff. And that might sound cool. I don't know. I have found geocaches that are based near sewage treatment plants, and they talk about the smell in the title or whatever. Yeah.
There are caches where we look at difficulty in terrain. What we might consider to be a high difficulty cache here in Ontario, folks in other parts of the world, in Europe, might just laugh at our fives. Like, our fives would to them might just be a 2.5. Their fives to us would be a 10. So it's all rather subjective, and again, you make a choice. Not every cache needs to be found.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Andrea says we found a multi that had a stage 1, and the final was approximately 150 kilometers apart. And I think that's the first one. Not the same one, but one stage was in Niagara Falls, Ontario, and the second stage was in Ingersoll. So I don't know if it's about that distance apart.
It's a little less of an accomplishment nowadays. Not in all cases, don't get me wrong. There are exceptions. But very often it's easier for people to say, hey, the cache that you found, that's the stage 1 was 150 miles away. Can you tell me what that was? That seems to be something that's a little more prolific nowadays, because we have more platforms for messaging and sharing. So people often miss out on the original intention of designs. Whereas back 20 years ago, if you had a multi required you to go 150 kilometers, pretty darn certain you were the person going to the post-it and then driving 150 kilometers.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was in Los Angeles, one of the virtuals that I went to was called Sister Cities, and it required you to take a photo of yourself or your GPS at the posted coordinates with the sign, and another photo of yourself at a notable location at one of the 30 sister cities for Los Angeles. And some of those cities are pretty difficult, I would think, to get to, or I'm not likely to ever go any of those places in my lifetime, except for one of them is Vancouver.
Oh, well, there you go.
And the beauty of it is, I looked in my phone and I can't find anything that is recognizable for us having been in Vancouver, except for the oldest geocache in British Columbia, which could be any ammo can,
Not true.
and a picture of a bridge which I'm not in, that's in Stanley Park, and a screenshot of us completing the Stanley Park Adventure Lab. And I'm hoping that the cache owner will accept those. If not, oh well, that's just the way it is. I'll have to wait until I go back to Vancouver to complete that virtual.
Tree huggers and ammo can now. Wow, Tupperware when I found it. That's cool.
Oh, it was Tupperware when you
Yeah,
found it.
yeah.
Yes, it's an ammo can now. Oh yeah, let's go visit the comments. Let me see. Not every cache needs to be found. I don't understand that concept from Word Ghoster. Oh, Andrea says that's the one. That must be the one I was there talking about. For the 150-kilometer multi, we live in Niagara region and went to visit a family. Yeah, there. So that was the one.
Isn't that great?
About. Yeah, that's awesome. We found the same cache.
Cool.
It was funny. I just posted on things you find in geocaches. There was a site that Jeff set up on Facebook. And I found this Altoids container at the LeBray tar pits. And it had 4 pieces of gum in it. And so I'm like, well, so I took a picture of things. What of this geocache should not be there? Gum or scented items. And a person commented that was one of the cache that she found when she started geocaching again. She was kind of like, oh, thanks for the memories.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Now, as far as the whole, when you're doing a trip and you happenstance across something that was very good for caching, I recently was in Bermuda and I landed, and I decided instead of checking for the Airbnb and then coming back out for a bite, let's just get the cabbie to stop. We'll pull over here. And there's a place and go eat there. And I'm sitting there. I've ordered, and I pull out my phone to see what's around. Then I realize there is a cache 5 feet from me. And it's like, okay, well, there you go. That was one I was supposed to get this week.
Wow,
to save myself 2 hours right there. Done.
Boo-boo. Cool. Okay, so I've seen this recently on, I think it's geocaching Facebook page. I think, updates from the geocaching headquarters. Everyone sees many geocaches, even featured by HQ, that are partially or fully buried. Is that okay? Yes, and
there are times.
No.
There are times where I might see things highlighted that reminds me it's a regional game played globally.
Mm-hmm.
And they might be in social media feeds of Geocaching HQ. They might be in social media feeds of vloggers. And I'm like, really? It just means that might not be something that would be regionally understood or accepted here. That doesn't mean it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is always that little magical caveat of permission is a marvelous thing. So a few years ago, HQ did revise the guidelines on things that break ground.
Yeah.
And so if you own a piece of property or have explicit permission, you might be allowed to have a gadget cache that, for example, might be impaled on the ground. That's a thing that's fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, if one needs to break ground, dig, use a pointy object, scoop, or otherwise disturb, that's a problem. So one of the banes of existence are those fake sprinkler head things that need to be pushed into the ground to look like fake sprinkler heads. And if you want to find something that's going to make land managers and property managers want to ban geocaching, it's caches showing up and disassembling their many $1,000 actual sprinkler systems trying to find a fake one.
Mm-hmm.
So we suggest get a small container like a tin, fill it with little pebbles and rocks, push your little thing into it and hide it in the shrub. And if you want to use it, you can do that, or put it somewhere that you own, but showing up into the local shopping center parking lot saying to the manager, can I hide a cache out there? Yes. And then having the person responsible for the maintenance of the flower beds have a cow because someone's been taking apart their sprinkler system. Not cool. Time and a place.
Yes. Yeah, if you look, I'm assuming they had permission because it's in a garden, but and it's been there for quite a while. On our last video that we had for, actually, I think it was our first cruise video that we just had posted last Saturday. There was a cache we referred to as, the hint was one tough nut. And take a look at that one. It is completely buried in the ground, so you would assume, being in the garden of this area, that it must have had permission of the owner of the property. So that would be okay. So that, in that case, that one's okay.
One would hope.
That would hope. So I'm going to post in the comments. This is, I'm just posting it now. This is the URL for our, and I'll put it on a banner. I'll just add, here we go. Add a banner, paste it, paste, there we go, boom, done, enter, no, wait a minute, enter, that didn't work, paste, enter, there we go, that is the URL, oh damn it, that is not the URL, because that's edit, shoot, I did the wrong thing, hold on, there we go, boom.
That won't work.
That didn't work. Hang on a second. I'll get it now. Boom. Forget about that part of it. There. Oh, that still didn't work. Damn it all. Oh, shoot. Oh, there. Wait a minute. There we go. I pushed the wrong. There's the URL for the fail that we did. I'm going to, oh, wait a minute. Hang on. We need, no, I could block that. Paste.
For a transcript for today's show, write down everything we say.
There. So there you go. That is the URL for the video of me falling through the ice. And that was released way back in, I don't know if it tells me that. I don't know. Wait a minute. Hold on. I will. If I press that and just hit pause. That was 3 years ago. Sometime 3 years ago. And I just have not had an opportunity to get back to that geocache. I had contemplated it when I was working in Michigan, but didn't help. So yeah, we'll put that in the show notes, as they say. Let me see here. We've convoluted everything with all my mispostings. I once found a Where I Go final that was 300 kilometers, but at least 6-hour drive from the posted. Holy doodle. Wow, that would be completely annoying. I just tried to do a Where I Go at the La Brea Tar Pits, and I couldn't do it because I couldn't get the cartridge to load. I clicked download, and with the Android phone, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So I wasn't able to get that one, unfortunately. Oh well, tough to be me. What else do you got, Roy? I got a whole bunch of more questions.
Bring it.
Okay, hang on. Wait a minute. Can 2.0, yeah. Everyone sees. What about the many geocaches that are physically attached to trees?
Same deal. So they're out there, but one shouldn't be disturbing or damaging the environment.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the guideline for it.
Unless
permission from the owner.
There you go. Or the
property owner. It's like that 9/10 of the law thing, right?
How do reviewers deal with the many geocaches that are in storm drains or culverts underground or under roads?
That's probably dependent on the region.
Yeah. Does the city of give you permission to place that container? How would you know?
Right.
And there's a lot of them out there that I know of.
Yeah, there are times where on the reviewer side of things, they may have a note that tells them that something is specifically not permitted in a region. And so the first thing is we don't always know, because people can provide information saying, in culvert. Cool, but maybe in culvert means it was 16 feet under the road. You don't necessarily know. But we might have situations where someone says, we have permission, which is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
There might be situations where we know that there needs to be permission confirmation, or there might be a blanket ban from a particular municipality, but that's just here. How that
Yeah.
works in other regions, again, they might have their own approaches. But this is one of those, and she highlights the whole, not every cache needs to be found.
Yeah.
And it also goes to the whole be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, there are all kinds of dry culverts that people walk through all the time. I
Yep.
know people that use them as kind of how to get to work, not within the caching world, right? Um, they go, there's the
Are
bridge is
you
the way
talking
down
about?
there,
You're talking about underground Toronto?
close to it. But it's permission is the main thing. And if a
Yeah.
reviewer has a kind of a spidey sense feeling that something is not quite right, they've always
Mm-hmm.
got that magical permission card they can play, right?
Yeah.
Like, show me. You click that little checkbox that says I have permission. All
Yeah.
right, show me. And think about that when you hide things. Is this a cool spot, or is this a good cache, or is this
Mm-hmm.
a cool spot and good cache, or is this just a mean thing I want to do to somebody? Granted, people enjoy it. You know, they will say, "Oh, it's a challenge. Put my boots on." Or tall people hate it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, but it really it's common sense. And if you get questioned for permission, or if it gets kicked back, I wouldn't be surprised.
Um, Put you on the spot.
Hmm.
Do you go culvert caching? Have you been? Will
No,
you go? No, you haven't.
the spiders and them there things. Now, I've gone into dark, cramped, small, icky, dirty places,
Mm-hmm.
under docks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to date, it's crawling through something wet. That
Just,
no, that's
just
better.
not,
I can do better things than that. Thanks.
just not your thing.
I don't need. Yeah, I
Okay.
barely log the things I find as it is. I kind of sit in the batch and log them in. To me, it's the experience. I don't necessarily worry about the numbers.
Okay. It's an experience going, 800 meters through a storm drain,
Oh,
turning left, right, and up,
I'm
down.
happy to sit there with a camera at the other end and watch them come out and go, "Oh, you're a mess. You're not getting in my car."
Do reviewers ask about what type of container is used in the hide if the hider is new? And would a reviewer know a hider is new? Would you know somebody's never really? Do you have that? Can you divulge that information from the reviewer side?
Well, we can all tell. Look at their
Yeah.
hide count.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So,
that's easy for anybody to tell if someone's a newer
okay.
player,
Yeah.
or phrase that, if it's a newer account.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's one of the reasons why we always suggest that little box that pops up that asks you for a reviewer note and it says, "Please provide details of the hide."
Mm-hmm.
The reason why the website says, "Please provide details of the hide," is so that new players say, "I used a 35mm film container that I got from Model 12."
Yeah.
So that's the premise, is that provide the info. So reviewers might kick that back and say, "Please provide information." Some will do that.
So, have you seen a lot of new geocaches will say, like a Ziploc container or something that you could say, well, that's not really the best. That a lot of experienced geocachers will know that type of container, not a Ziploc, but whatever it is, doesn't last, especially in our area.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
one of the yogurt container, sorry, yogurt.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example of something where it's plastic that gets hot, shatters, gets cold, shatters. It's not watertight. You think it is, but it isn't. So if we see something like that, in Ontario, we have our regional wiki where we actually have a section that says suitable cache containers. And cache containers must be suitable to deal with the temperature extremes of living in outdoor Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
So please use something else. So we'll kick that back if we know that's what the container is, and that's one of the other reasons why we ask for that to be put in there, because it's not just containers like that are not suitable. It's that folks will sometimes think that an object is a container. So one of the guideline requirements is that a cache is defined as a log within a container. I know you're going to say magnetic sheet. There is an exception. So if you decide that you're going to take a surfboard and hide it in the forest, and people are going to write on it. That is not a container. That's a surfboard in the forest that people are writing on. So I'm going to ask what the container is. So that's another example of why providing that information, because you'd much rather have it addressed before you hide it than big, bad red ink wiping it from existence at a later date when someone goes, "Oh, did you know that that's not got a container?" And the reviewer says, "Oh."
Wet Coaster says, for the city of Surrey to approve my hide, I had to send a photo of the container. Yep.
There you go.
Each area their own, right? And like you said, the wiki is different for all regions.
Yes, and that's a specific land manager thing too. So some regions, their land managers might be very involved. They might be geocachers, and so they might want to do above and beyond. Other places simply say, for permission for the cache, tell us where it's going to be. Look on our map on the wall. It's here. Yeah, that's not near the lesser wildebeest that we've got that's nestling nearby. We're good to go. So each permission process might be unique.
Here's another question. I think I have some. I'm trying to find it, but there's something related to what we just said. But my airport has a viewing room accessible to the general public. There's a coffee shop there and plenty of seating. Can I get that published?
Event within the transportation center. So in the guidelines, you'll see there's a couple of suggestions that say cruise terminals, airports, not places for events.
Now, would there be an exception to that? There's always an exception, right? There could always be an exception. Could you explain that, it's accessible to the public, or is it just strictly because it's on an airport property, it's a no-go? By the way, my airport does not have a viewing lounge with a coffee shop. Just want to clarify that.
I'm going to read the guideline and say, the guideline says no. If you disagree with that, you can contact the folks at Appeals and may be able to help you in ways that I cannot.
And that is in the guidelines. I was going to add that too. Yeah, but you're probably likely to find that they will, they don't always. I have had an instance where HQ agreed with me and not the reviewer. It doesn't happen often. Usually the HQ will side on the reviewer, right?
Actually, it happens a lot. You just don't hear about it.
Oh, okay, really? Okay,
because think about it. No one's going to complain if a reviewer publishes their cache.
Yeah, they only complain when they don't. Yeah, okay. Okay, so here, I think we might have mentioned something. My geocache was turned down, but someone else did it 5 years ago in the next state. How can they do that and not me?
Well, today's guidelines might be different from yesterday's, first of all. Like, things get revised all the time. And reviewers do their very best to keep up to date on what those changes are. So HQ says, we've changed up our approach to this. From this point forwards, this applies. So that's one reason. The second one is regional game played globally. There might be a regional approach. So if somebody was allowed to publish something in region A, region B might not have that approach. But even in the same region, that can occur because it also could be something has changed from a perspective of permissions. It also could be that not just from the guidelines, but challenges are a big one. A lot of people point to challenges and say, but this was published in 2014. Well, we've completely revamped how challenges work since then. The other one is there's nothing that says that a reviewer today needs to potentially repeat the mistakes that another reviewer made, even themselves, yesterday.
And that's called?
No, cache sets a precedent.
Right. Precedence. That's the word I was looking for. I've had that bite me in the posterior before. But wait a minute.
Yeah.
In the next province over, no, just because one person did it by mistake doesn't
If the reviewer clicks the green button on Monday on something, and then on Wednesday an identical something shows up, but they've had more caffeine on Wednesday, and if they kick it back and there's a guideline, it's quite a possibility that the first one's out there and the second one isn't, and people might not realize.
Yeah.
There are times where you'll go back and try to correct that mistake, but if it's years later, then it's typically, I wouldn't say grandfathered, but particularly in different regions, we realize that there's no perfection involved. There will always be
Hmm.
differences. And that's kind of one of the nuances of the game that's fun, because really, if that didn't happen, what would we have to complain about?
I know you get. And do you find, um, because Ontario has, for those, I don't know how many Americans are watching, most of it's local, I think, right now, live, um, that Ontario has 3 reviewers. So you get some differences between the three of you. Like one might do something, and then, well, so and so just did this, and then you look and you go, oh, well, so and so shouldn't have done that, and then so and so realizes, oh, darn it, I wasn't really watching when I hit the go button, so they realize they made a mistake. But other areas, they like one state has one reviewer, and there's only one. How do you find that as reviewers? Like,
Within the Ontario team, with the three of us, as you say, we we communicate with each other on a regular basis. In fact, we can have ongoing dialogue. We're friends. We chat anyway. So during the course of our day, if we were in the review queue, it might not even be something really contentious. We might just say, what do you think of this one? And we'll actually ask each other opinions on caches. Sometimes it's just to refresh our memories on our approach to it. So challenge caches are the toughest ones because there's so many different variations which of wording which can boil down to the same kind of challenge. So we cross pollinate, and if one of us says the thing you did is not what we said we'd do, oh, we one of us could have interpreted the words in the page differently from how other ones do. So we
yep,
might correct it. There are times we'll disable a cache, email the CO and say, you know what, we screwed up. For consistency, um, it's out there. Can you please change it? There are
yep.
times where it's like, oops, Danger Will Robinson will hit the unpublish the retract button if it's not been found. And,
Yeah, I
you
was
know,
going to ask you that. Have
yep.
you ever retracted something
Oh,
because you
absolutely.
realize you've made a mistake? Yeah,
And
yeah.
so reviewers are, for the most part, human and definitely not infallible. So an Ontario team will definitely say, we'd want to make it a best experience. We screwed up. That one's on us. What can we do to make it better?
Okay.
That's for us. Now, for regions that have one reviewer, they might not have the benefit of someone in their region, but they still do have the rest of the reviewer family, for want of a better phrase, to
Hmm.
talk to. And we do talk to each other. We have a place where we can post a cache page and get opinions from reviewers from all over the world. And we do
Okay.
that. And it's
Yep.
so that we're able to, you can get tunnel vision, or you can second guess yourself, or you could just want to get examples of, hey, do you have a template for this situation? And so
Hmm.
we do talk to each other. Um, but it doesn't preclude mistakes being made. And it doesn't preclude someone saying, you know what, it's no big deal. I'll leave it as it is, and I'll make sure the next one's better.
And then it becomes precedence that, oh, just because that one was okay, I made a mistake doesn't mean this one's okay, right?
Yeah,
You,
there's nothing that says we have to repeat history
yeah,
if it's a mistake.
right. Excellent. Jeff says everyone tries to do something unique with challenges.
It's getting
That's hard to
tougher, isn't
do.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have. When I was doing challenge caches, I was researching and trying to find ones that were unique. But I was finding that things that I was coming up with or using were quite common across multiple states. You look at, oh, that's there, it's here, it's here, it's here. It was very hard to come up with something that was really, really unusual.
And one of the things that and Jeff will probably appreciate this as much as you do, I'm waiting to happen is what happens when some of these challenges can't be found anymore because the age of the cache is no longer around,
Ah,
right?
and
Like,
then
how does that get weeded out? Is this just a case of we just, people start waiting to
yep.
log a lots of needs archives, or
Yeah, it's like, or yeah, it just sits for so long. Well, nobody's logged it anymore, and finally somebody pays attention and said, nobody's logged this thing in 5 years, and you can't do it. And then the cache owner goes, "Oh, okay, done."
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's that there is one of the, I guess the challenges. It's similar to if people have unsolvable puzzles. And to the earlier comment about saying, hey, my images from my cache page have gone. So a few years ago, there was people used to use Photo Bucket was a commercial site.
Yeah.
It was a free site at the time. Now it's commercial. The people used to use all the time for images, and they would upload the picture to the site. They get a URL, they'd put it into their cache page, and they'd have a picture of the puzzle. Then one day, PhotoBucket said, "We want money for that." At which point, loads of puzzles no longer had their images. Who knows? If you look at a puzzle and it isn't solvable, it'd be great if you take the time to tell the cache owner or person needs maintenance. But a lot of people went, "Oh, this must be a really difficult puzzle. It's just a blank space. I'll move on to another one."
Yep.
So
That's what I do. Just move on to another one. Of these items, which see if the room knows. Of these items, which ones are allowed? Ammunition, that's allowed. Lighters, cigarettes, knives, flowers, drugs, alcohol, edible items, crayons, tissues, lip balm.
I have one question.
Yes.
Are they new tissues or are they old ones?
No, it's in a new package,
Okay,
unopened.
just checking. Thank you.
There you go. Not used. No.
All right.
There you go. That's the question. Which ones of these are allowed? Is ammunition okay? Lighters, cigarettes, knives, flowers, drugs, alcohol, edible items, crayons, tissues, and lip balm. Crayons. Crayons are allowed. That's what Andrea says. The last three. Andrea says the last three. Crayons, tissues, and lip balm are all allowed. Okay, we'll see if anybody else has anything else. Come on, everybody, get in there. We got a whole bunch of people in the room. Wake up. Give us your answer. There are several items that are, there are a couple or a few that are actually allowed. Most of them that are listed are not allowed. Andrea says the last three. Tim says none of them. Wet Coaster says crayons and tissues are allowed. Tissues are allowed. Tissues only, Gary Lee says. So there you go. That's some of the answers. Well, obviously, let's weed them out. Ammunition. I have seen a bullet in a geocache, and I removed it. Is ammunition allowed in a geocache? We'll weed them out one at a time. Roy, is ammunition allowed in a geocache?
No.
No. Okay. Cache Line says crayons and tissue are allowed. Recommended? Not so much. Lighters. Can I put a lighter in? Because somebody might be needing a lighter to strike up. Can I put a lighter in the cache? No. Okay, lighters are not allowed. Andrea said crayons and tissues. I know the answers to this, by the way. I did read the rules.
Good.
Okay, cigarettes. I have found cigarettes in a they're not illegal. A cigarette is not illegal.
It's best we don't go through what we found in geocaches. Go on.
There you go. Yeah.
Jeff's
so
got a thing for that.
Is a cigarette allowed?
No.
No. Okay. Why not? It's not illegal.
Is it family friendly?
No. Okay. Knives. Obviously, knives. It's a weapon and not a good thing. Sharp. You can go pokey and go ow. The question is, I have found it. Flowers. Can I leave a flower in an event in a geocache?
Is it plastic?
No. It's formerly alive.
No.
It's dried. No. Okay. But if it's plastic.
Well, it's plastic at that point. It's not going to attract an animal.
It's non-scented. There you go. There's a clue for you. Drugs. Obviously, we don't want to use drug paraphernalia. And if you watch one of our videos from, I can't remember the series. It was when we were going up to Jimmy's Castle. We were with the KBK crew, and we accidentally found somebody's stash. Not a cash stash, but a stash. It was a magnetic key holder under a garbage bin. A great place. I have found many geocaches.
Thank you for bringing me to your special place.
There you go. And I'm like, and then it was so funny. Karen's like, wow, look at this. What are all these things there? We found somebody's stash. Okay. Crayons and tissues only, Charles says. Is beer okay if you have the adult-friendly attribute on the listing? No.
Actually, alcohol isn't allowed, but there is one particular cache where it is allowed. I'll be placing it in my front yard shortly. I can tell you the GC codes. If you wish to drop any off in that particular cache, you can probably overlook the issue.
Overlook the rules. Edible items. And I had mentioned earlier the tar pits of La Brea, and I found some chewing gum. No, anything edible or that gives off a scent is not allowed. Crayons. Okay, let's come right up here. Oh, of that one was at the Terry Fox Lookout. Absolutely, yes, it was. She was watching the videos. That's where it was. So some person, trucker, whatever, would probably be disappointed because that stash would no longer have been there because it went in the trash. So tissues is not an item that you cannot leave in a geocache.
Oh, we skipped.
It's okay. Oh, but I'm going back. Lip balm is not allowed because it gives off a scent.
And there's another reason.
And it melts. No. Oh, and it melts. And so that leads you to the third last item. Crayons are not allowed in a geocache, even though you find them all the time. Why?
That's right.
Because they melt.
They melt. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the wording is it's a family-friendly and outdoor game. And so the contents must be suitable for all ages. So your list doesn't have a lottery tickets, but one shouldn't put lottery tickets in for the same reason. It's just covered the same as the cigarettes, essentially.
But
Might
if you
be
want,
legal.
if you want to leave lottery tickets in any of my geocaches and say that you did, feel free. I'll go right out and pick them up.
Right. All of those old lottery tickets you have, just drop them off.
No,
so,
not old ones.
It's illegal material, dangerous material, which is explosive ammunition, lighters, knives, drugs, alcohol, edible or scented items, and I think it's got items that can melt, such as crayons or lip balm, and items that can expand in the cold, such as liquids. Now, I'm quite sure that if you were hiding a cache in Florida, you might raise an eyebrow at not putting liquids into a cache in case it expands, but again, regional gameplay globally.
Recently, Florida has been pretty cold.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So yes, tissues.
Ken, they're allowed. There you go. If you want to leave a tissue, I don't know why you'd want to use it after it's been sitting in a geocache.
2 days it's soaked up probably most of the moisture that's in there.
All the power to you.
Yeah.
Okay, if I walk and stand on a relatively flat surface at ground zero, example, a T 1.5, however, need to use a pull down pole to grab the cache, is it still a 1.5 terrain?
Well, to get to the cache, you didn't change your travel. You just use a tool of the trade, which arguably might increase the difficulty. So I would say it's still a T1.5 because that's how you got there.
What if it never gets warm enough to melt crayons?
And it just proves we're living in the wrong place.
The guidelines do say crayons are not allowed.
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, there you go. Some crayons are scented too nowadays.
Indeed. The good ones.
It wasn't good enough that you could color things with them. They had to make them scent. Yes.
Of course.
Okay, there we go. Jeff does add, so not allowed is more like frowned upon.
If it's pet peeve, here's my cache. It has a geocoin for first to find. It's got 4 pens, a penny, and a Bill and Ted sticker in it. Great. But what about the day after it's been out there? The idea of a cache page is to tell you a lot about the cache, but a great place to say the stuff that you put in the cache when you hit it is in a right note log that everybody can read when they actually get to the cache page. Because by the time that log's disappeared, chances are the stuff for the FDF is gone too. And so it's great when people provide that information. So if someone does say, we've put this in the cache, we would still say it's not guidelines compliant because we're not necessarily saying that they're just going to be hiding a cache here. They could move. They could be relocating.
They could move?
People move all the time.
No.
Yes.
That can't happen.
I know. Well, Mr. Wet Coaster there is a prime example of this.
Oh, please tell us more. Okay. Follow-up question. So if a wheelchair can get to GZ, but then have to use a tool to reach the cache, can it still be a T1?
My personal opinion is that seems to make sense. I am still bemused that if you click the wheelchair attribute, it doesn't force you to choose T1. It says you should be T1 implies wheelchair, but it doesn't enforce the other way around. So if you can, again, get to the location, it is not as if you say something is wheelchair friendly and it's in a tree, one is going to take the assumption that we're not going to roll the wheelchair up the tree. We're going to use a tool. So in my mind, what you said does make sense. I think there might be different cases, different scenarios, but I would much rather people have the opportunity to go out and attempt to find that cache than to see a high terrain rating and miss out on something that they could have enjoyed if they had had a grabby tool with them.
Yeah. So that was a lead up that she just added. Or does a T1 also imply a wheelchair user can reach the cache without tools?
It's journey to the cache.
Jeff says, or like reading listings many, many years old with the description still indicating what's in the cache for FTF.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like when somebody created a cache like 10 years ago, the geocache contains, obviously it doesn't anymore. And I made mention of that in one of our videos when we went to Labrador. It was amusing what they had mentioned was in the geocache. And there were some things that they said that were there, and I'm like, why would you even put that in there? You go and search the Labrador geocaches, watch them. I think it might have been the second one we might have done. It was an old geocache. I went to find it myself because Karen was staying near the road, and it was amusing. I'm like, what would you need that for? One was a radiator cap. And I'm thinking, well, okay, I guess if you lose your radiator cap or the gasket blows, it could be
You have a 1984 GMC and you're set.
Yeah, you're good. Cache, Andrea, we always have a laugh at the long term. This was in the cache at the time placing lists and descriptions.
But someone would do it, and then someone would see that when they found the cache, and they think that's the way that you do it, and they would hide that in their cache. Now 2 people have got it, so somebody finds both their caches and says, well, that's what you do, and they keep going. And so a lot of the time, it's learned behavior. So one of the phrases I use is always be mindful of the shadow that you cast.
Yep. Okay, another question I have preloaded. A vacation cache or a cache hidden far from home is not allowed. This will be for the people in the chat room before we answer. What if the hider has someone, a geocacher or not, who agrees to maintain it for them? Would that be allowed? What is the consensus from the chat room? We're going to go away. We find some dude. Hey, can you look after this for me? And yeah, sure, go ahead. Or a hotel or a bar owner and say, yeah, I'm going to put this under that tree. Can you just check, make sure it's okay? And I get their contact information so I can contact them easily and say, hey, yes, I can do that. Or my brother in another province and say, I'm going to put this near your campground, and if I let you know there's something wrong with it, just go and check on it and be okay. Is that allowed? And everybody seems to say yes, that it would be allowed as long as you have someone. Does it have to be a geocacher, or can it be anyone? And if you specified that in your geocache reviewer note, that I have somebody and I can give you the contact information if need be, they say they will look after it for me. Is that allowed? Everybody seems to think that's okay. And the reviewer says...
Reviewer says take Andrea's response, copy and paste it, because it would be perfect.
If a satisfactory maintenance plan is given to the reviewer, then yes.
Which is great, because we still will let satisfactory be subjective. Cool, huh?
Awesome. So there you go, folks. When you're geocaching on vacation, if you can find someone, any Joe Blow on the street, you go. No, we want to make sure if you do place a geocache on vacation, or with near family or somebody that you know will actually take care of it for you, because you know that sooner or later there's going to be issues with that geocache and you will need to address it. And can you fly 1,500 kilometers away to address that issue?
So here's the question. How would your reviewer know it's a vacation cache?
Because it's a distance from your known location, your home
That,
location.
that's one way to do it. Now,
Yeah.
let's say, for example, that you decide that you're going to hide one that's a great distance from your home location, and you provided a maintenance plan.
Hmm.
And the maintenance plan is, I don't know, your cat is going to take care of it.
And I would review back and say, my cat. Okay, is your cat ambidextrous? Can they open the
Okay, so
container?
that's an example of where your reviewer would say you don't have a suitable maintenance plan. But let's say you have a maintenance plan as an actual person, a reliable person, and they take care of your cache. But one day they move away. What do you do?
Uh, yeah. Okay, so say that again.
Your reliable maintenance plan moves away. Your cache is still out there. What
But
do you
no,
do?
the reviewer doesn't know that now.
What do you do?
Don't say anything.
Well, there's a problem with
No.
the cache. So
Yeah.
this is something to bear in mind, even with
You're
the
right.
whole I have a good maintenance plan is what is my backup maintenance plan? Because if, for example, your vacation cache does have a maintenance plan today, it doesn't have one in the future,
Yeah.
and it flags as needing to be fixed, reviewers will notice that. So if you want to hide another vacation cache, maybe they can look at your track record.
Mm.
So you want to make sure that you have a good plan.
And that does beg the question that, okay, you've got somebody to look after it, and I've done this myself. Um, that somebody will look after it. They've moved, or they're no longer, they're not even alive, or whatever. That now, what do you do with that container that's 1,500 kilometers away that you can't get to tomorrow?
Yeah. So
Right?
just always consider, do I really want that there?
Yeah. Go back to the comments. There we go. This answers that question. When
Yep.
my brother was no longer available to take care of the cache, I archived it.
And really, that's a great approach, because you've done what you can to bring it to the game, to bring somebody somewhere. But the last thing you want to have, and we've all seen this when we've been on a cruise ship, is, what are we actually looking for?
Yeah.
No idea, because the CO's long gone. They wanted the vacation cache, and I would much rather not have them on the map, so I could
Hmm.
potentially discount taking part of my valuable time while on vacation, going all the way somewhere, so I could spend more time going to something that I'm pretty sure is there from a local.
Yeah. Offer it up for adoption or disable it. BK64973 says. Speaking of coming up, let me see. We published. It's not this Saturday is the Bahamas from our cruise, last cruise. Following that was Puerto Rico, then Dominican Republic. Okay, so it's not this Saturday, it's not next Saturday, it's 3 weeks from now. There will be a video coming up from the Dominican Republic where Karen and I and two other geocachers were at a cache location, and this particular situation will come up. And there will be people that will not agree with what we did. And I discussed that in the video, and I'm okay with it. I just, it's a game. It's a cheap way to say it. A lot of people get upset with, oh, it's just a game. And I kind of contradicted our views, but it's not hard and fast. But watch the video and comment and let us know how you feel
There's
about
a
what we
savvy
did.
content creator. Be sure to tune in, say subscribed, hit the
There you
bell,
go.
and watch a future episode of Cache Canada.
Coming soon. And ask a local geocacher to retrieve it. Oh, that's a good point. And actually, I did that. There was somebody that was local, and I said, when the one I did have, it was in Florida. I don't know why I published the thing. I was coaxed to do it. I did it. I wish I hadn't. It became a pain in the butt. But I did ask a local geocacher who I actually knew. I had met them, and I said, "Hey, when your travels, do you go this way?" "Oh yeah, all the time." "Well, can you pick this thing up for me?" So they actually did pick up the container and get rid of it for me. So
Wouldn't it be better to just try and get that person to be interested in the game and go find some caches themselves and hide the cache themselves.
Well, they were a geocacher,
But
and
I mean in
yeah.
general, for sort of
Oh
people
yeah, yeah,
having vacation caches,
yeah.
you know, encourage your contacts to become a geocacher. Say to them, if you go out and find 20 caches, let me know, and I'll
Hmm.
tell you how to hide one. And that'll be great because I can come find it when I come on
Awesome,
vacation. I can see it.
cool. How about if you live in a place and put out some caches, you move away asking for a friend?
If you don't have a maintenance plan, then um, thankfully, if you're somewhere where you have a community and you have people that appreciate you and respect you greatly, I'm sure you have no problem with adopting those caches out to folks or having asking your friends to look after them for you because that's your maintenance plan. But for a lot
Mhm.
of people who move away and they may not be as close or as important to their other community, then archival is definitely an option.
Coming to a neighborhood near me soon, or at the end of the year. There you go. What do I do with the, I don't know how many hundreds of geocaches? There are quite a few we have. And actually, if nobody knows that we are hoping to move by the end of the year, there are several caches on my list that I have that I would hope that somebody would adopt, and I think they will. One of them is in the top 5 for London, Ontario's geocaching community. So there you go. Andrea says, I once asked in a post of my own cache if somebody would change the faux log because I live too far away. I got a message from a reviewer that is not maintenance and is not allowed.
That
Oh
is
my
a
gosh.
your cache could be archived
Ooh,
action.
just don't say it in a
Uh,
log.
you can approach people you know, absolutely, but essentially putting on the cache page and broadcasting that you're not performing maintenance is saying, I am not following the guidelines.
Whoops.
Okay, there's a button
Okay,
for that.
I have to ask Andrea, did somebody change it and was it archived? Did the reviewer get involved? I have to ask that. Well, she'll put a response there.
That's Andreas. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
Andreas. Oh, that's
Yeah.
Andreas. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, we got both of them on.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Uh, what Koster said, I adopted some out. Friends
See,
help with
a
maintenance of
respected
others.
member of the community wherever he goes.
There you go. Um, it's not illegal unless you get caught. In other
Yeah,
words,
you know what, Jeff? Some people have already blown their reputation. They've got nothing to protect anymore.
we know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we all know somebody that that happened to, and it's like, oh, just don't be so public about it. But okay, that was one of my questions. I had it on here. Boom, boom, boom. I'm just gonna scroll down. Boom.
While you scroll down,
Yep.
Gary had a question: is what the distance is a reasonable home range?
Oh,
Your maintenance plan really defines your home range. We might turn around
there.
as reviewers and say, what's a usual zone? I don't know, maybe it's 100 miles in the States, 150 kilometers. We'd start with that. But if you don't have a track record of maintenance on caches that are far from home, on our side, we might put a note saying, had an issue with timely maintenance of caches that were more than 100 kilometers away from their house. So then we might say, yeah, what's your plan? Let's bring back your distance from home. But the flip side is, if you're a long distance traveler and you commute from Ottawa to Kingston 3 times a week, and you're hiding something in the Thousand Island area, it's going to be apparent by your actions and taking care of things. At which point, like, yep, they're good to go. That's not an exceptional travel thing for them. So it is individual, and there's a learning process where your reviewers get to know who you are. And a prime example is people with cottages. Is if you have a cottage, it could be a great distance from your home,
Mm-hmm.
and you might go there regularly all year round. And so a reviewer might say, is this a vacation cache? It's a long way from home. And you say, no, it's at my cottage. Okay, we'll make a note of that because
Mm-hmm.
we're going to try not to delay things for you next time. Can't say we won't always do that because sometimes there's an information overload of the things we get to look at.
Yeah, we got our answer. Yes, friendly cachers help me out and still do. Okay, the question I had was There we go. This had to do with what we were just recently talking about. A finder of a geocache replaces a log sheet that was wet. Can the hider claim that maintenance was performed? They didn't do it, but the
How do
cache
they
is
know?
okay
How do
now.
they know it was done?
That's true. But they're going on the assumption that somebody added a log sheet.
Yeah, then that person who added the log sheet might have done a right note, or they might have said added the log sheet. From the cache owner, I might turn around and go, "Yeah, really? I've seen people add a log sheet.
Yeah.
It's funny how the log sheet they added doesn't seem to have their name on it, and my log sheet was perfect without their name on
Ah.
it."
Boy, he has an answer for everything. My gosh. By the way, I'm going to be giving away 3 Cache Canada trackable tags at the end of this episode, which is coming up shortly because we've been at this for 2 hours and we've managed to retain an awesome audience. This has been so cool. So I'm going to flip over to a just a little, it's not a paid advertisement, but I'll let it run. And if Roy can think of a trivia
Okay.
question, and then we'll go with at least that one. So there you go. So we'll run this and we'll be right back. Sorry about the banner that was running there. I forgot to turn that off. But there you go. Project GC. There's a wonderful tool for anybody to use. And if you pay your, and this is, I am promoting it, but I haven't been paid to promote it. If you sign up, and it's a very inexpensive fee, you get a bunch of interesting little things that you can do that you can't do unless you pay. And it's not that much money. There you go. So, boom, it's supper time here in Wet Coaster Land. All right, thank you, Gary, for joining us. We're going to be leaving shortly ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because it's time for me to go do something else, do some editing. So, do you have a trivia question for us?
Absolutely. So, on the geocaching website, on each cache page, there is a section that shows online maps as being options. What are the 6 kinds of online maps you can view on a cache page?
Do they have to get all 6?
Yes.
Oh, the first person
It's
to get
such an easy answer.
all 6 map types?
Yes.
Wow, all 6 map types. There you go. There's
You got to go
question
look,
for
and
you.
once you found them, they're right there. That's easy
Oh,
to do.
okay. All right. So anybody can do a quick search. You can copy and paste, boom, and then we'll be watching the chat for somebody to get it right. There you go. And I have to create a trivia question. Oh, let me see. I don't know. Oh, no, I have already asked that one. Geocaching, Map, Tyler, OS, OMLMs, CM, Liberty, Google, Roadmap, Google Maps, Satellite, MA.
Yeah, he's got it. The text box cut out there, so
Oh, okay. Yeah, cut out. So
he's
that
got
was
them there.
Jay
There you
McKay.
go.
Is that John or
Yep.
Joe? John?
Yes.
Yeah. If you can give me an email to londonwesty@gmail.com, then I can get your address and stuff, and I can send you that to you. Congratulations. And Syed Rahim, oh, I haven't heard that name listed before. Bing, Google, MapQuest, Open Caching. Is that the same? Or no?
Yep.
Not.
Just like John pipped him to the post there.
Okay, John beat
Yeah.
him to post. All right. Good try. Excellent. Do you have another Do you have another trivia question based on geocaching?
Of course I do. So
Awesome, because I can't think of one.
on Prairie Geocache, we see the posted coordinates on the cache page. Underneath, we see the UTM coordinates. What does UTM stand for?
Ooh, good one. UTM. Unable to maintain. Boom. That's it. You're done. You're archived. You can't be found here because you're not going to maintain your cache. No, that's not it. Don't go with that one, folks. That's the wrong answer. UTM. What does that stand for? Foldable, out of date, bird's eye, universal temperance minor. Hasn't
Oh,
gone for dinner yet.
there we go.
Oh, John
Well,
K.
the other John wins there. There we go.
Awesome.
So
The
we've
other
under the mat.
under the
Good
mat.
effort, Joe. Good effort, Joe.
All right, the other John K. If you also send me an email to londonwesty@gmail.com, and I can get your address, and I will send you a Cache Canada trackable. Okay, Roy, you're on the spot. You got another one?
Yeah, I can come
It's
up with
all
another
you.
one.
It's all you.
Right.
Up the mountain, Steve says.
So this one is she's probably might teach some people some things.
Nice.
We used to use
That's why we're here.
a phrase that described locationless and webcam caches. We used to call them grandfathered cache types. What do the guidelines refer to them as now?
I thought it still was grandfathered.
Guidelines change from day to day. The magic of Dave's cough button.
Yeah, I found it.
Oh, there we go. Steve got it. Legacy cache
Steve
types.
Haynes Lake. Thank you, Steve. Another geovloggers out there. Awesome. Good to have you with us.
So there you go. So we've
Oh,
got
and Andrea got it and just
tipped at the post.
squeaked in past.
Old folks scam. There you go. That's fantastic. So
Old folks scam. Thanks, Dave.
So we've got 3 there.
Awesome.
So I like
Excellent.
that. And so I'll throw in a couple of trackables here too, so you can let Dave know your info, and we'll get them out to you as well.
Yeah, Steve, make sure you email me at londonwesty@gmail.com.
That's all right. So the next one is removing invasive plants and a CETO activity. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to expect a lot of answers. I've picked a number, and I'm going to see how many people respond, and the nth number I'm actually going to do, and
Oh, so it's not the... Okay, now I got you.
It was 1.
Oh. So it is, let me see, is it Andrea?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. There you go.
Yes. And so we'll do 2 more. We'll make a little more about today's episode. So
awesome. Fun.
We were talking earlier on, and Dave was talking about sister cities. What was the name of the city where he wanted to log the virtual cache?
Where I was when I was... Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, there you go. Sister cities that had 30-some caches. Oh, there you go. BK 64973, is that it?
Los Angeles, yeah.
Los Angeles, there you go. Vancouver was the other city that we were in prior to.
He's got two there, so that's a good one.
Awesome. Yeah, Los Angeles. Look forward, and again, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell. Los Angeles is coming up. And a little tidbit of info. The reason I went to, maybe I said this, the reason I went to Los Angeles was to look up the filming locations for 500 Days of Summer, and geocaching was a tag-along. There you go.
And the final question is, what is the name of London Westie's geodog?
Oh, this is a question I've asked before, and we mentioned it just tonight, if anybody knows. Of course, there are people that watch us all the time. They know. If you know.
How quickly can they type?
Yeah, right. There you go.
Let's see who pops up first.
Jerry, VA3C. Thank you so much for watching. I haven't seen your name on before.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Kathy Laurie. It's not Olive. Charles. I've met Olive. Very nice dog. Kathy, that's right. Blake. Dave, you got it too, but Kathy beat you to the punch. There you go.
So there you go. Awesome. So if you send your info to Dave, I will make sure
Yeah.
I get 3 trackables in the mail, and he'll make sure you get stuff too.
Awesome. Excellent. Uh, so, yeah, this has been great. We've held an audience for how long? I think we'll have to do this again. We'll
All right.
check our schedules and we'll post one up before the spring ends.
Next time we'll get snacks. Maybe we'll just, we do like 12 hours of this, right?
Oh, absolutely. We can do a marathon. This has been great. So this is the first one we've done this year, a
Yep.
live. Did I do something? No, I don't think so. No, I did something. Yeah, no, I did a Dougie B.
Yeah.
I did it, but
So you did the cache tour thing, yep.
I have to do an update video, Dougie, either with Dougie B or I'll just do it myself. On the last video that we did for the cache tour, we had Dougie B was talking about a line that appeared that was meaning that that's where the cache was to be placed, or the next series that you were going to add was going to put in there. We found out from Cache Tour that that was a bug, and they were watching while we were doing the live update, and they said right immediately that bug was removed, so that if you are doing that step from that video, if you go back and watch the last Dougie B update, that bug has been fixed. Also, what happened was we were talking about Dougie B had showed a range of geocaches that was that you could come up, and there was no definable range. That was also fixed. The Cache Tour said they forgot about that part of it, so they've added so that you can pick, say, 5, 10, 15 kilometers whatsoever. So Cache Tour is actually watching what we're doing, and very, very interested in our ability to show you Cache Tour.
See, look at that. Cache Canada and Dougie B affecting change in the game.
Awesome. I love
Isn't
it. It was so cool. I was so amazed to get that that comment from Cache Tour. I was like, wow, hey, Dougie, watch this. And he had some other news, but we'll let him share that with you. So I'm going to post a very quick update on that. And I'm going to share something I found out about. I found this out on the cruise. Roy knows all about it. Is doing an adventure lab and then using somebody else's phone to log that. And I thought that was of being cheating, but I found out when I posted that information on a Facebook page that a lot of people use that in ways I never even thought about. So I'm going to create a very quick video for adventure lab updates like I did recently, one about creating the little pins. And that one had a lot of hits. Adventure Lab videos are very, very wanted nowadays. People want to know about Adventure Labs. So I'm going to create that one probably this week before we go away on another road trip. Cache Canada's gone again, just like that. There you go. So thank you so much, Roy, for joining us once again. It's been awesome.
Pleasure, my friend. Always a good time.
Excellent. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. There's so many comments. We can't keep track of them all. I'm scanning now to see if I've missed anything.
Well, there'll be another one.
Oh, yeah. We'll look at our schedules. We'll put in another one, and they can win some more prizes and enjoy hanging out together with snacks.
Absolutely. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell.
Awesome. You do. I should have you make a little section for that, and I could just pop you into the end of our videos. Ta-da! And a word from our reviewer, Roy.
Ta-da!
But
Awesome.
Anyway, thank you so much. We'll stick around. I'm going to pop this in here as a thank you, everyone, for joining. And if I can find it. Hello. Where did I find it? I don't know. There we go. I've got it, and we're going to play this now. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining Cache Canada, and make sure, you subscribe. And where will geocaching take you?